All right, hot take time. Super Bowl edition. I thought this could be a fun, video to make previewing the Super Bowl. Get your thoughts on the Super Bowl a little bit of the, hot take stuff here. Could be fun. So yeah, you know how this works. You give your hot takes. I react to them. Not a ton of submissions this time, but still, I think some good ones. So let's get into it. This will be Brock's legacy game. I think Spags will underestimate him, and he will get his first ring because of it. I certainly think it's possible that Brock Purdy could do well against the Spagnuolo scheme. I think the idea that Spagnuolo is going to underestimate Purdy is just not true. He doesn't underestimate anybody. He's certainly not going to underestimate a quarterback who was an MVP candidate and is playing in the Super Bowl. That's just not going to happen. I think that he's going to still go after Purdy at times, and I think that, less about Purdy and more about Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle and even Christian McCaffrey, guys who are going to be blocking and picking up blitzes here. I think they might matter a little bit more. Again, can Purdy locate where the blitz is coming from? Yes, his numbers have been great against the blitz, but this is a different style of blitz than he's used to. I'm still expecting things to go. I think he'll be pretty good at it, but is it possible that Brock Purdy could do well against this scheme? Of course. I mean, it's a scheme that's going to create a lot of one-on-one matchups with a lot of really good receivers, so it's certainly possible. And again, part of what makes hot takes fun, but also difficult, is usually you kind of have to say this is going to happen, which you never actually know. But that's a fun hot take that I can see. Don't fully agree, but a fun take. Mildly warm take. Okay, well, maybe I'll make another video in the future of giving your mildly warm takes, but I actually kind of feel like this is a hot take. This game is a complete blowout for the Chiefs. Their defense destroys Purdy. The game is over by halftime. I don't think either team is going to completely destroy either other team. Again, can you see a scenario where it happens? Can you see the scenario where Brock Purdy can't figure out the Spagnuolo blitz and he's, turning the ball over? That's really the way I think it has to happen. I think Purdy has to be turning the ball over like what happened against Baltimore. If he's throwing 4 interceptions, then yeah, it could be over by halftime. But there's only really one instance this season where that's happened, so I'm not expecting it to happen. I think he'll make plays at the very least, so unless there's a huge turnover differential, which, I mean, that can be said in any game, I don't think that that's fair. I think these are two really good teams. I think it'll be close, but again, is it within the realm of possibilities? For sure. We'll see if that hot take ages well. This turns into a field goals only game. Go Chiefs. I got to be honest, if this is a field goal only game, I think that favors the 49ers. Well, yes, so obviously having Butker over Moody is a big advantage field goal kicker wise for the Chiefs, but I mean, you look at the red zone percentage this season, the Chiefs are below average at turning red zone drives into touchdowns. The 49ers have been the best in football at it. So, that's a big disparity, and I think that, it does feel like for the Chiefs, they got to not get field goals, I think. They got to get 7 on some of these plays, and that's something that you got to pay attention to. So, again, we've seen the Chiefs win in games like that where they've gotten a lot of drives and just gotten a lot of points on the board. That certainly can help, and their defense is very good, so maybe it can work out, but I feel like if this is a field goal game, that favors San Francisco, as weird as that might sound, because obviously the Chiefs have the better kicker. It wasn't Rodgers' fault he didn't win a second Super Bowl. His defenses let him down more often than not. Well, this isn't really what I was going for when I meant Super Bowl hot takes, but I suppose I didn't specify which Super Bowl, so we'll talk about it. Why not? Yes and no. I do think that, in general, pretty much any time that someone says, oh, the reason why this team, always loses is because their quarterback always chokes, usually there's more to it than that. And there certainly have been instances where I would say that it wasn't really, his fault necessarily, but there were some, you think about the obviously the Cardinals Hail Mary game where he does that great comeback and then they lose. I think it's fair to say there are some games that you gotta look at and say he didn't play particularly well when his team lost. While it's true that you look at the overall losses, there's a lot of games where the defense gave up a lot of points. They gave up 37 to the Giants, but they only scored 20 right in 2011. They gave up 45 to the 49ers, and they scored 31 in that one. Right, there's plenty of those instances. There are the other ones. I do think that pretty much every 49ers loss, with the exception of the one I just mentioned, there's things you could point to with Rodgers and say that wasn't ideal. There was the NFC Championship game against Seattle, which I don't want to say it was on him necessarily. A lot of that collapse was outside of his control, but they could have been up more had he had a better first three quarters. Things like that. So you're right that like the idea that like, oh, the only reason they only won one is because of Rodgers is silly. I think that it's a Packers failure, and I've kind of maintained I think the Packers should be the ones who are embarrassed about the one Super Bowl more so than Rodgers in that scenario. And winning a Super Bowl is hard, but again, when you have a superstar quarterback, you expect to win more than one. I think what really hurts Rodgers is the most recent 49ers loss, not the one this year when he wasn't playing, obviously, but in 2021. When they lost 13-10, that's the one that I think is going to hang in people's heads. And, as stupid as it is, against Tampa Bay, he had an opportunity to get a drive going and tie the game up and didn't. And maybe he would have had a better opportunity if they went for it on fourth down. But I think those things factor in. But yeah, I think that's a fair take that, like, again, we can have nuance here, right? Like, no, like he had a couple of bad moments. Who hasn't had, like, Brady's had a couple of bad moments in the playoffs. It is what it is. But I think that's, I wouldn't say it's just his defense has let him down, but just in general, overall, it hasn't always been his fault that they've choked. That's how I would phrase it. Back to Super Bowl 58, Nick Bosa and Chase Young absolutely take over the game in the second half. There was another one kind of similar. Chase Young will have an elite game. After all the clips of him showing little to no effort, he will give 100% effort to finish the game with a forced fumble, sack, and pass deflection. One sack on Mahomes counts as two in my book. I gotta say, I only noticed the one play. Maybe there was another one that came out and I didn't see it. I definitely noticed that one play where Young didn't give a ton of effort. But yeah, I mean, again, who knows exactly what's going to happen, but like, I don't think it's crazy to expect good things from Chase Young. Like, his underlying numbers have been good this season. He's going to have favorable matchups. I actually kind of like this hot take. I don't know why I guess Chase Young hasn't had sacks, and that's what people look at. People only care about sacks. So, because of that, people are like, oh, well, I guess he stinks. But, like, I don't think he's been great with the 49ers or anything, but I do feel like you look at that defensive line from when he got there, from before he got there to now, it has looked a lot better, in my opinion. So I don't know. People are mad at that defensive line, but I think it's pretty good. And I again, the question, though, is even if he's getting pressure, is he going to get sacks? Mahomes is the best in the league at getting around, getting out of sacks and stuff like that. So we'll see. Kyle Shanahan chokes an all-time collapse of a 31-3 lead. That would be funny. That would definitely be funny. That would be a fun thing that could happen as someone who has no dog in the fight, really. I said I don't really care who wins. I guess I'm rooting for the Chiefs because I want to win the Pick'em show, and Kyle picked the 49ers to win. So that would be fun. But again, I wrote what I said on the podcast, which I really believe in, is what I want is just the 49ers to be up in the fourth quarter. I don't care what happens from there. I want them to be up in the fourth quarter. Either let them blow another lead for the memes and all that, or let them hold on to the lead and then they can kind of then they redeem themselves. But I want that opportunity again. That's what I'm hoping for. Mahomes shows he's human. I think the game will be close coming to halftime, but receivers will make mistakes and he won't be able to will his team back. It's interesting. I mean, I do have to say, there has become this weird thing where people act like Mahomes is a god. All this, like, Mahomes is obviously the best quarterback in football. Like, Mahomes isn't a god. He is a human, and he does make mistakes. He's just played very well these past few weeks because, again, he still is Mahomes and still is the best quarterback in football. That being said, I don't know. I definitely think the receivers could make mistakes, but they've been playing better recently as well. So, yeah, I don't know if this is a crazy hot take either. I do think that it's a fair thing to bring up that, like, Mahomes isn't, he can be human sometimes. But, again, we've seen him play so many great games in the playoffs, it's hard to bet against him either. Finally, one last hot take. San Fran blows them out and ends Andy Reid's career, and Mahomes never gets back to the Super Bowl. What's crazy is that, so I don't think Andy Reid would retire after a Super Bowl loss. I don't think so. I think he's going to be around for a while, actually. He's 65. People act like he's 90. I get 65 is when you usually retire, but I don't know. I could see him hanging around for a while longer. What's crazy is the Mahomes never getting back to the Super Bowl feels like such a scorching hot take. But, how crazy is it that that's where Mahomes is at? We think of him as, him not getting to a Super Bowl from this point would be, like, okay, that's never going to happen. Getting to a Super Bowl is really hard to do. And, you know, he's 28. Like, if he went the rest of his career without making a Super Bowl, for most guys, that'd be, yeah, that's, you know, a little disappointing, but not like crazy to like Lamar Jackson, for example. If he never made a Super Bowl, you'd say, okay, well, that's disappointing, but sure. Like, if Burrow never made another Super Bowl, it'd be a disappointment, but you wouldn't be like, how did that, you know, not happen? Mahomes, it's just like, no, he's going to make another Super Bowl. What are you talking about? That's just where he's at, which again, sometimes the real point of this is just hearing what some hot takes are and how crazy that sounds. I think that even if San Fran blows out the Chiefs, Andy Reid will stay there and Mahomes will get back to a Super Bowl, but a fun hot take nonetheless. Those are my thoughts on all these. What do you think? Let me know any of your hot takes in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.